not an exciting look for,
Pretty dark looking here. Amazing. We
looks
are in
pretty.
Florida where the sun's supposed to be, but not today.
Right, and there is more to look at in here than what you see. You see a window behind.
And
that's
we're,
it.
we're shadows today.
We're
but that's
shadows.
Okay.
We're in the shadows
In
here
the
a little bit
shadows.
today, but that's okay.
Yeah, it doesn't
But
matter.
anyway, we're just having a talk about what remains at the end of the journey. You know, and we spend so many lifetimes in this big search, and Kundalini awakens, and then you have all the phenomena and all of that stuff that takes place, and that one goes through with the Kriyas and all the other stuff, and the big whoop moments, and the big, all of that comes, and the big bliss modes, and all of the other things that happen, and one gets to the final, end of that search, one can say, and has that final stepping off point in that death, what they call the Bible, the death before the death, and sees what's at the end. And then at that point, one understands what karma is and why the universe is the way it is, and that, that underlying the God energy, that's the life of all life and the death of all death. And one is in a big, huge, at that point, the mind stills, there's no more ongoing running thoughts, etc., etc., and that process of the stilling and everything takes about a good 10, 12 years to happen. And then at the end of that, once that happens, one goes back into life. It's a natural progression that takes place. What else is there? You're just going to sit there and talk about the absolute?
No.
And stay stuck is another stuck point? No. And, it's a natural progression, and one goes back into just life and enjoying life for what it is. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like going back into life without all of the drama and baggage and BS that one had in their life before the search. That's it. It's like a freeing up of all that baggage. That baggage drops. And that's it.
A little bit simpler.
It's much, it's much simpler. It's much simpler, but there's nothing to look for anymore. There's no more striving to look to find something. One doesn't feel that they're missing something, and there's no more need for any of the hoopla of the spiritual game or a spiritual show of robes and all of the rest of the trappings that go with it that are okay, they're aids along the way, but comes a point where these things fall away. It's a natural progression that takes place.
Well, they're just externals like anything else that really are just the same as anything else at the end, not anything that has any special.
Right.
I mean, they have their purpose for the time. I suppose, one isn't attached to them necessarily.
Right. They have their purposes. They're like supporting players in the journey, I would say.
Even just like any of it, like a mantra that you use, or any of those things, they're more kind of, like you say, more of a support, or even just something that can have some help to move things forward in their own way for the symbology and things. But in terms of the end thing,
well, exactly. And again, there along the way there are things that are beneficial. Like I said, the celibacy, etc., are beneficial for a time in the journey. There's a lot of things that come up that are beneficial for the time in the journey. But as one progresses, then things make changes again along the way in what's beneficial for what time. It's like being in kindergarten. There are some things that are beneficial that fall away when you get into the grade school, which fall away when you get into high school, which fall away when you get into college. And, it's again a progression.
And it seems to naturally fall away when it needs to fall away, just like anything. It's a natural kind of spontaneous thing. When it's done, it's just done. It doesn't, and celibacy is a state of, it's more a mental, it's quietude, really, that purity, that pure consciousness.
Right, and that remains no matter what. When you get to the end of the journey, that quietude and that always is paramount no matter what. No matter whether there's eventually relationship or not, one is still always in that state of quietude that remains at the end of the journey.
Well, that's the way it should be if it's stable. It's not necessarily what's taking place, within the action. It's that stable quietude is there no matter what is taking place. So be it relationship or not, that's the stability and the beauty of it. It's not,
exactly.
And the way it plays out is always different.
Exactly, because one moves into, and I think that, that's the hardest thing to get to explain to people, that the consciousness shifts as one goes through the journey. There are different states and steps and values of consciousness that arise and fall away and change along the way. And this is a journey through consciousness. Not to say there are not things that are aids or hindrances along the way when it comes to the physical and it comes to, the things that you gravitate to support the journey, etc., etc. But when it comes to the end of the journey and everything deconstructs, everything has deconstructed, and one goes through that 10, 12 years of settling that takes place. At the end of that settling, then one gets pushed back out into life again, into regular life.
Flow of life, but it's the pure life. It's not, with all the separative drama that people
right, because there's nothing left to search for. The answers
sense.
are already there. You know what is and what's not, and what you are and what you're not, and what God is and what's not, etc., etc.
Nothing more to do or know.
There's nothing more to do or know. So what remains? Yeah. And I think there's a big, huge sticking point that when you get to that level, that you have to maintain wearing robes, you have to maintain, talking about the absolute, and I'm in this pure state and this and that, And so the freedom of it gets lost, in this constraint of it has to look a certain way and has to be presented in a certain way to be valid. Yet it's lost its validity then, because then it becomes another construct of, the spiritual game, what the spiritual game has to look like or has to be presented.
I just think that that's really the beauty of this path, of how you've really blown all that out of the water, because otherwise it wouldn't be freedom. It would be some kind of boxed in, has to be this way and look this way, and that's not freedom.
That's not freedom. No, that's not freedom. That's not freedom. So, all one can do is continue to be honest with what happens, what takes place as one goes through the journey. That's and that's what we've striven to do here, and that's what we continue to do. Like I said, it comes, and then there's a big period of when things first fall away, and there's that first shift of that consciousness and that death before death, that one is in awe, one is in awe, and it's so overwhelming of being in non-duality. The non-dual state is overwhelming, and one is just, with big eyes like this, but as time goes on, one is always in that state, so it becomes the normal consciousness. No big whoop anymore. It is what it is. Just like people are not in any big whoop with the consciousness, the state they're in now.
It's just
it just is what it is.
Regular thing. It's
the norm. The big whoop is when they start getting into that love bliss consciousness, and they're in love with love, and they're in love with the bliss, and that high. and remaining in that high for that time that happens, and people get caught up on that. That's a big, catching point. But again, eventually one goes beyond that into that stillness, in that still mode, and at the end of the journey, that if one wanted to go back into that type of a bliss mode, one can stay in the heart and could expand that and could do that. But really, that's not missed. That big hype is not.
No, that's
Is
got a
not
downside
missed.
to it. That's got a fall to it, if you ask me. That just is not all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah,
For me,
no,
I just,
it's interesting that people that are just getting in there and they see God in everything, and they have their idea of God in everything, and that's a big point in the journey when one is there. But when one passes past that, it's another thing.
more of a steady calm, or a steady,
Yeah, it's more of a steady calm.
versus a, the woo, and the, it's,
Yeah, the big
no,
whoops.
no. Yeah, well, I think the good news for sure is that there's still an adventure there that's to be lived. It's not like, okay, stops here. There's no stopping. There's still
There's not a stopping, but
an adventure.
the viewpoint that spirituality is somehow separate from life, and that you need to find something higher than life goes.
See what you're saying?
That feeling that there's something separate and that this is higher than the living,
Right, just the regular
that
life
falls
and
away.
Mhm.
That falls away, because that in the midst of all life is that absolute. It's the core of everything.
Well, that's the dual mindset. Is there something higher? That's the
Right, there's
dualistic.
a separation between one and the other, but
Yeah.
there's not. So when everything deconstructs and you see
just
that you are
here.
not that,
It's now.
it's just here.
It's right
it's-
here. and
It's
now.
here.
Take
Without
on.
it, there would be no life. If that absolute was not there, there would be no life.
And whatever it is savored just for what it is.
Right, so what comes in, then one goes back into life, into that expansion of the appearance of the realm of duality, which is still not two. Okay, it's still not two, even though there's the appearance and the Shakti, which causes the appearance of the subdivision, one enjoys that. And enjoys the encounters that it brings, and the life and the journey and the experiences that are there. Absolutely. So there's no more a look for something that has to be spiritualized, I'll say, spiritualized.
Like this action is more spiritual than this
Right,
action, for
right.
instance. Yeah.
Right, you don't need to have the spiritualization.
Yes, understood.
Of-
This is
of
dirty, this is
everything.
holy type
Exactly.
thing. Yeah, and that's
Exactly.
a mindset more than it is. That's
Exactly. That's another
a
type of a mindset, and this thing, such as the vegetarianism is more holy, or this is more holy. There's life and death in every moment. The appearance of life and death, yet nothing dies ever. There's just a recycling and a rechanging of the things. That's part of the life experience. That's what it is. So yeah, it shifts into a whole different level, a whole different experience. It continues forward. And it's not that nothing is missed. Although I have to say, at the first, when everything first fell away, it was like hitting a brick wall of, well, now what? Because if you have that really jolting, jarring experience where it's not a gentle falling away, sometimes for some people it's a gentle falling away. For me, it wasn't a gentle falling away. It was just between black and white, and it's like hitting a brick wall. You just, boom, you hit that brick wall, and all of a sudden there's nothing to search for. That's it. And so many lifetimes have been spent in the search. Well, now what? What's there to do?
Wow, that sounds really
It's very,
Powerful.
at that point, yeah, if you have that very black and white experience that happens, it's like, it's a shock. I've searched for millions and eons and lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes to find the answer, and then all of a sudden there's nothing to look for anymore. Well, that's been the gearing force of the life for lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes, has been geared to the search. And then when the search ends, well, now what? I think it's kind of like tantamount to somebody that's worked their whole life, and their self-worth is based on their work, and then all of a sudden they're retired, and they're not ready to retire.
Yeah, and they put all, but then they're just taken away. That's it. Done.
Yeah, it's all taken away.
Have a choice. It's over and done.
It's done. Well, now what? Now what?
That's a tough thing.
It is. So yeah, at that point, if you have that black and white experience, it's all of a sudden, well, now what? But at that point, even with that, it took, like I said, 10, 12 years of settling and stuff that gradual changes that happen. At that point, there was still, a bit of mind play, and it's still settled, until that's done. That's done. It just, goes,
The embers that were popping. New embers still coming down.
Yeah, and then that dies out. But then one goes, it's very surprising when that shift comes, that you're thrown back into life, because it's not something that you're looking for. It's not that you feel you're missing something. It's not that, but all of a sudden some doorway opens and you're thrown back into life. Something comes along, and all of a sudden it's like, whew, that the next part of that doorway and that journey opens. So, is anything missed? No. Does it feel like it's a lesser experience? No. Does it feel like it's a higher experience? No. It's just the next experience and the next, if you can say, level in the progression of life. Yeah. That's it.
All good.
All good. Interesting journey. Very, very interesting journey. So people look at me and they go, well, how can you, now I'm doing what? I'm with a fighter and trainer and manager, and I'm doing boxing. I'm doing boxing every day, and all of that stuff. And well, how can you do it? Because it's the next part of life. Okay, and it's enjoyed, and it doesn't make it any less spiritual, or that you turn your back on the spiritual path, etc. It's just nothing any longer needs to be spiritualized.
And these things just come spontaneously. It's not like experiences are sought out or, planned out, or all of these things. It opens up, and there it is.
Yeah, it's not that something's looked for, that something's missing or whatever. That, like I said, it's a spontaneous happening that just evolves, like evolution. Like evolution of animals or plants or whatever, things evolve, and it changes along the way. It goes into the next mode of existence.
Thank goodness. I mean, when where no one's
Thank goodness.
Being stagnant is a lifeless thing. It's this is life. Life has its
exactly.
mystery and unfolding and progression and all that stuff. That it's just a mystery, and it's how it is, and so it's a good thing.
It's a
otherwise
very
this
good.
is where you're stuck.
It's a very good thing.
That's it.
It's a very good thing. Exactly. When I started this journey in this lifetime, like I said, the search has been going on for a lot of lifetimes.
Understood.
A lot of lifetimes. And that point of just being in such absolute suffering at the beginning of this lifetime for a lot of years, there was a lot of very, very, very intense suffering beyond. It was so, I can't even, it was excruciating. Times where I thought I could not live till the next second. It was a trial. Each second was torture, was absolute torture. So then one goes through the journey and one's willing to put themselves on the line and do whatever is needed to get out of that suffering. And I was at that point praying for death because it was so torturous. And so one is willing to make the journey through Kundalini and doing whatever is needed, because all I wanted to do at that point was to leave the planet, never have to have another incarnation, never have to have another breath, draw another breath in a physical form. I would do whatever was needed to get out.
That is a left-handed blessing of that kind of suffering, and I'm there too. I understand that fully. So, it's like a platform, really, because you just start. I mean, really, in terms of the suffering that's been there so intensely, and it's like.
And it is a left-handed blessing because it puts you in that position. You'll do anything to get out of that suffering, and that's why one has to, and that's why it says in the Buddhist teachings as well, you have to understand your suffering in order to move forward. If you don't understand your suffering, and that's why it's a left-handed blessing to be in a point of at such absolute suffering that you can hardly draw another breath, and to feel like at one point where I felt the suffering of humanity and it was torturous. It's analogous to being Christ on the cross, because that suffering, you cannot even draw another breath. It is so torturous that you're willing to do anything to move
and
forward.
that kind of suffering, which is understood, is a suffering that can't be denied. I mean, you can't say it's anything else but that. I think some people that say they're not suffering, I've never understood that, because it's like, you must be doing okay, then you must be not really feeling what's there, either that or, I don't know, in denial, because when you're in that kind of suffering, it's all encompassing.
It's all encompassing, and I think, a lot of people that are living nominal lives, they try to say, well, yeah, I'm in suffering, but I mean, they're not in that tortured existence.
They can sweep it under the rug. They have that luxury. I'm sorry, when you're like that, you don't have that luxury. It's there, and you can't get away from it. You can't,
Exactly. It's like people that say that I'm in the absolute, and it's a mind game, and they're, convincing themselves.
I'm in the absolute. You can't just say that and be in it.
Exactly. You can try to convince yourself of something and say platitudes, but that's not it.
Affirmations are like night and day. It just
right. And there's a big line between really, really suffering and having an idea about suffering, or having an idea about this or an idea about that. The direct experience, one has to have the direct experience of all of these things rather than an idea about it. It's like when you say you go through the death experience, and then you get people, no, you don't understand, I'm really dying. Well, no, I do understand. People think it's going to be some kind of a mind game that all I have to do is say that I understand it, or it's going to be something that's kind of cognized but not a direct experience. As something I'm going to understand. I'm going to understand it. There is no understanding it. It's an absolute direct experience. It's not something that's understood, quote unquote.
Again, like night and day.
It's between night and day. So it's not something that you're going to understand and I'm going to grok it, I'm going to get it, I'm going to intellectually.
Once I get it, then it's all done.
Then it's
I don't have to do anymore. I'm sorry, you do need to go through every step of it until it's done. No one gets out of it that way. That's
right. Christ did not intellectually understand the cross. Okay, I get it. I intellectually understand the
Okay,
wilderness.
I studied it.
I understand the wilderness. I understand what scourging would be. I understand what it might be to be on a cross, and I understand what it would be to be risen again. Okay, so I don't have to do the direct experience.
See, that speaks to the whole thing when you.
Yeah, no, you have to have the direct experience, and
imagine just the cognizing it and the direct experience. If you consider that, you can see the difference. They're only light years away from each other.
Exactly. So it's not something that one intellectually is going to get and understand and go beyond. I mean, any of the spiritual, and this is why the spiritual thing, most people are on the, you could say they're like the nominal Christians, okay? They go to church, they want to hear a nice sermon, and then I want to make it better in my life. I want to intellectually convince myself of something, but I don't want to have the direct experience of what it is to be an actual saint, that has to go through the really difficult things, and that is there in like the monastery situation that's hands down on the floor praying, from their heart from morning till night and going through the difficult things. So, this is not to take something away from people that are on a nominal journey that are trying to make their life better, okay? But it's what I'm saying is with this,
not this path.
it's not what this path was set up. This path was really set up, and a lot of people are using it more like the nominal things. Okay, if it helps you to get by, that's great. That's great. It's fine. It has its place, but don't think that, that using it to get by, that you're going to get liberation.
No
Liberation takes going that nitty gritty, I mean, balls to the walls, just, full out, and going through that, that hardship, that absolutely down to the kernel of what you are and what you're not, and really seeing it from the depths, the nitty gritty, that tortured existence, that pain that's beyond, it's so deep that you can't even explain it in words.
It just, when it's pulled away like that, it's again, it just, and here it comes and goes. There are thoughts that come in and go, but that absolute, when it is all pulled away, I don't even have a word to say to it. It's so, honestly, the mind, the way, the Shakti and everything, and then it's just a naked, it's completely, like a raw,
and a lot of everything in your world is going to really get shaken up and be torn away. Anything you're clinging to during that journey is going to be pulled away. It will be pulled away until you have nothing that you can hold to. Absolutely nothing. You're going down in quicksand and there is nothing to hold to. So if you've still got stuff you can hold to in your life, you're not there yet.
You're just driven within otherwise.
You're not there, and you're not going to be there. It's not, don't think that you're going to enter realization in this lifetime, because realization takes everything, has to be pulled away for a time. Everything gets pulled away for a time. Eventually, things come back. Things come back in the life, but for a time, things all get pulled away. Because there is nothing you can cling to other than God, other than that. If you're clinging to family, you're clinging to friends, you're clinging to this, you're clinging to that, you're clinging to your status, you're clinging to your wealth, you're clinging, to your family life, forget about it. In this journey to reach realization, there's nothing you can cling to. Everything will be stripped bare. Everything will be stripped bare. And you may lose everything in your life 2 or 3 times. I've lost everything in my life 2 or 3 times, to the point of nowhere to live, no job, no nothing. I mean, everything can be stripped away. Family, friends, anything you thought you had that you could hold to, it will be gone for a time.
Death, that's how it is too. I mean, you say physical death. I'm sorry, all these things just are. That's it, done.
Exactly.
And I've been there when people are dying,
force.
but it just
exactly.
Boom.
It's gone.
I don't care what you're clinging to. It doesn't matter, and I don't care what you're thinking. I don't care who you're praying to. Any of it. Boom.
It's going to go. It's going to go.
Sorry.
And when one goes through, if you have the black and white experience of that death before death, everything will go. All the light, you'll be sitting there and you will absolutely be dying, and the world will be gone, and you will be gone, and there's nothing that remains but that is. And when one comes out of it and opens their eyes again, the one sees the world, but that world comes back into view in a totally different way at that point. And again, then there's the settling that happens, and then the things do come back into existence again, but again, one is in a totally different level than where they began. Thank God.
Isn't that what the whole thing's about?
Yes, exactly. And that tortured existence has ended. The tortured existence ends the moment of that black and white experience that happens, or if for some it's more of a gentle falling away bit by bit by bit, that can happen as well.
Gentle.
Well, I mean, it's not, I'm just saying it's not a stark, black and white boom like that.
I don't know anything about the gentle.
Yeah, it's not just a boom.
Okay.
You're there, and then there's
it's
that switch that's immediately there. It's a progressive falling away.
No, and that's probably a little more here, but it's just sort of like
but
I don't think I've come to the big baby. I haven't come to the big baby, but I know it's gonna happen.
It's coming. It's coming.
It'll be
It's coming.
that way, and that's what you hope. It's a nice channel. I would hope, but it's not.
One can hope. And hope springs eternal that it will be the
just
gentle.
Softly take your ego away.
Yeah, no, there's no softly.
I'm teasing. I know what you're saying. Totally.
Yeah, no softly taking of ego away.
No,
it kicks and screams the whole way.
Yeah. I mean, you can think you're going to surrender. It's another story.
It's another story when it actually happens, then it's not as easy to, it's not this gentle surrender. Like I said, for me it was, on the altar of truth I lay myself, and God's either going to pull me through or I'm going. And I mean, it's terrifying at that point because you don't know if you're going to survive. You feel like maybe you're going to be possessed. It's, absolutely terrifying.
And all your main fear, like if it's to go crazy, be possessed, whatever, boom.
Terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And one goes through that and comes out the other side. But
and that was all spontaneous, though.
It's all spontaneous. It's not like you're sitting down and going, it's happening today.
You don't know.
No, it's not a planned, it's not something that you can plan. It happens when it happens.
Yeah.
And it's not something that's being expected.
Because that's how the whole thing's been here. I mean, when you could just be sit and just boom. I mean, nothing stark, absolute boom.
There is nothing that say this is coming.
Never.
It's not something that's
right.
You don't get an engraved invitation to the ball.
And 2 hours tonight, it's going to happen. Nothing like that.
No. There's no engraved invitation.
Know.
No engraved invitation. You're just, like I said, for me it was...
that would make it worse because you'd be worried the whole time. Oh,
exactly.
God, 7, I have to prepare. And that's what the whole thing is about. There's no you to do anything.
Exactly.
It's gone.
It happens by grace,
Grace 100%.
It's by grace. And the date that it happened for me in October of 99, I was there. It was a normal day, got up, and the usual thing, I sat down, was by the banks of the Ganges, was going to meditate, and then all of a sudden everything's just deconstructing and the terror comes up and the whole thing out of the blue. You're not expecting it, you're not looking for it, you wouldn't know how to plan it.
Sure.
You know?
How would you plan something
And who
like
would
that?
want to plan that?
How would you plan the end of the world?
Guess what? You're dying today
Yeah,
and
right.
the world is ending.
The world's going to blow up. Your world's blowing up today at 7
Armageddon
p.m.
is coming
Right.
to you today.
Oh, God, what should I do? Where am I going to go? Let me go take cover.
That's exactly what it's like. It's like
I know.
Armageddon. It's like Armageddon in the Bible.
Sure.
I mean, your Armageddon is coming today, and that's it, Welcome to that.
Well, that's what I know in the beginning of the path when I first met you. I'd have those visions of just mountains blowing up, deconstructing, just, all of these things, houses blowing up, buildings, things just falling into the ocean.
Exactly. A little recognition of what's going to take place.
Sorry, your world's going to be destroyed. It's like, oh my God. Well, and this was just all of a sudden happened, it's like, so yeah,
Yeah,
a little
surprise.
freaked out. Yeah, just a little.
A little freaked out, but that's what happens. Things actually do blow up, deconstruct. Your world is going to be torn apart. Your nice little safe world that you're trying to construct for yourself, your little happy nest.
That you think is a happy nest.
And that's, I think, a lot of
nest.
people come in because they're unhappy, and I want to be happier, but they don't want to face anything being torn away. I want to get more. I want to get more, and I want it to get better every day, and this is supposed to be like the yellow brick road, and Santa Claus giving me all the goodies I want. But I don't want to, I want a better, happier me, and I don't want anything to change in my world. I want to get more. But that on a real heavy-duty spiritual path, that is not going to happen. You are in fantasy la-la land if that's what you're looking for. Then you want the nominal. You want the nominal experience.
For sure. You may be saying this, but your mindset is not there. Your heart isn't there. And so it's going to be harder because you're going to be resisting, when it's being pulled away, you're resisting. So that's even more torturous, really.
Yeah, it's more difficult.
And in the beginning, what you're asking for to be, purified or, free or, whatever it is, you don't know what you're asking for. You don't know that
exactly.
means your whole world's going to be destroyed. You think it's just going to mean, I don't know. You don't know what it means. That's the truth of it. So, and you may have a concept, you may not. I know I didn't. I have no idea.
Yeah, I think people really don't recognize what a heavy-duty spiritual path entails. Most people, like I said, are looking for the nominal experience, although they would negate that. They would say, no, I want the heavy. But no, if you're not ready for everything in your life to be torn away, then you are not looking for that, like I said, the analogous of being the saint versus somebody that's going to church.
Yeah, no, that's understood. Like with here, it was more, there was so much suffering. I wanted out of that suffering. I don't even know what I was really asking for, or anything, but that's really been it. It's just,
I think a lot.
I'll do this at all costs. I don't care.
Right.
Take my whole body now. I don't care.
Right, and there's that, and the people that go into, like I keep saying, the monasteries that are, the full away monasteries that are not engaging the world, the ones that are it's just prayer all day, it's just mortification, it's that, really letting go of everything, versus the ones that are engaging the world and doing all these, what do you call it, social projects, etc. There's a huge difference between the two, which is what I'm saying with ones that are going towards realization, that are going through the death and everything being torn away, tapasya, that hardship, versus the ones that are, I want to do a social, I want to be a better social person. I want to do better things for society. I want to, more of the new age. I think most people are on the new age thing. If I want to make it better for everybody, I want everybody to be happier, better, fed, versus, doing more of a social project versus that tearing away and the mortification of the flesh, etc., etc. Yeah.
That's good that some, I mean, I guess there's just levels like that, it sounds like. And, with some, though, even with that, a lot of them still see themselves more as a tool of God versus that no separation. Okay, I'm a tool, I'm an instrument. That's still duality.
A lot of people, and a lot of people are looking for that experience. I want to be a tool. I want to be the hands of God. They're looking for more social projects versus that mortification and really giving up of everything. I want to work in conjunction with God. God is my co-pilot, but I'm in my co-pilot.
I'm not even God's co-pilot.
No, God is my co-pilot. Yeah,
it's even worse. But no, that's understood. That a lot of the mindset is there, and it's good for what it is, but it's not. It's heavy duty.
Exactly. So I'm just saying there are a lot of different levels and layers and journeys that are in place, from the very nominal of I just want to make my life a little better, I want to be a little happier, to that I'm laying down, everything is being laid down, take me, everything's going to be torn away, all the suffering, everything, whatever it takes. There is a huge
oh my gosh,
difference in the levels and layers. And
I'd say the other might be a little more feel good, wouldn't you?
It's more of a feel good.
A little bit more feel good, because this isn't.
Exactly. I want to feel good, and I want the rest of the world to feel good, and I want, to find a way to make my existence happier and better, and I want to make it nice and cozy for everyone around me. I want family. I want all my friends. I want the world to be happy. I want, and people are in that genre, versus that the world is suffering and I am suffering, and, everything is going to be torn away to find out what is that root of existence.
Completely, unbelievably different than
between night and day, between the two of them.
And you have to have that mindset and the heart for this kind of thing. It's not for everybody. It's just really meant, honestly, for a few. It seems like that are really
really that type of journey is only for a very, very few, and that it's not something you can manufacture.
You can't make it happen. If it's not there, it's not there. So just leave it. Just don't even try to make it happen, because if you try to convince yourself that that's it, you're worse off. It's another mind game. If you're not there in your life, you're just not there now.
Exactly. This is not to say that it's higher and it's better, and if you're not ready for it, you're losing out. We're not saying it in that way.
It's
just accept where you're at in existence. This is not the lifetime for it, and okay, you get the best you can get with what you are. But if you are in that, that you're pulled from a young age to the saints or whatever, and that suffering, and that's that suffering, and you're willing to, lay down your life, like some I lay down my life for Christ, and you have that draw since a very young age. You come in and you have that from very young, that you're, that type of a thing. You can't help it.
And you're not looking for it. You're not manufacturing it. It's there. You can't get away from it. You might try to. Believe me, when you're going to try to, but it will keep finding you.
It will find you, and that's something different. That's the ones that are looking towards realization, or just to find out. I want to know beyond a shadow of a doubt what God is and what is not. What is
whatever caves
what
kind of
what
thing.
is here, what is not. You know, that draw and that pull is undeniable, and one cannot
Yeah.
get away from it. But if you're in the journey of, I want family, I want everybody to be happy, I want to, okay, that's fine. That's where you're at. Nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying it's lower. I'm
It's
just
just where
saying
you're
that's
at.
where you're at, but don't try to play the game that I'm in. Really, I want to be in the most serious spiritual path, and I'm, I want realization, because you don't want to go through that death experience. You
It's
don't
just
want
not
it.
time now. Like anything,
Right.
if it's not ripe for it, and that's fine. I mean, the thing is, it's a relief to let that go if that's
Exactly.
not your
Exactly.
your heart. So
And so look
it
for
only help
something,
you.
look for something that's going to speak to where you're at. Find, do social programs. That's wonderful. If that's where you're at and you want to see, then work and give money to social programs, or go out and do whatever you can do for social programs and
And
humanity.
put your heart into it.
Put your heart into where you need to be in this lifetime.
And that will only benefit you and others more than trying to play at where you're not, that isn't where your heart is at this time. And just like anything, I mean, one comes into it and sometimes they wish they didn't have that drive to go through that death. It's not, I'll be honest, sometimes you just, and I'm talking from way back. I'm not saying now, but, just younger years when you don't really know what all is taking place. What is this about? You wish it could just be a normal thing, but it's not.
Exactly. It's not. It's like
plaguing
Buddha.
you.
It's like Buddha. Okay, Buddha came in, he was a prince. He was, had the best of everything, but he had that drive and that thing that would not leave him. That was
Doesn't
it.
leave you.
He left a wife, he left a brand new baby. He had that thing, I have to find out. That's it. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. And he went through a tortured existence of sitting there and not eating, and just absolutely at the point of death, starvation, and then found out the middle way was the better way. He had a very tough journey.
And it was choiceless in many
It
ways.
was
for him.
choiceless.
It's not like he's sitting there, I'm going to do this or not do this. This will be better. This is worse.
Exactly.
It's just, that's how it is. It's kind of like your skin color or something. You just can't
Right.
go back and say, okay, I want it to be a different thing. It's there. It's part of you.
It's there, and it's part of the things that it's driving one, and so that is, again, that's a different level. And just so for what we're saying at the end of this video, it's gone a lot longer than what we thought would. Just absolutely look, and the first point of this path is, be honest where you're at. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with what you're looking for. And the first step is honesty, integrity, and transparency. Find out really what it is you're looking for in life, and find the direction that's going to be able to give that to you. So that's it. I've given, like I said, I don't participate in the groups any longer. I used to answer every single mail that came in, but originally this path, I had constructed it for people that were going through the awakening of Kundalini and really wanted to get to the end of the journey. What I found was 99.9% of the people are not looking for that. What they are looking for is more social structure. They're looking to make their lives better, to be happier in their existence. Okay, nothing wrong with that. I could very well give sermons, I have done that. I've been minister, and I can give very nice sermons that you can listen to once a week and take away and feel good about yourself. That's very easy to do. But what I work
Thank you for
towards.
not doing that.
Yeah, it's not what you need at this
No.
point. But what I tried to do was provide a place for those that are really going through the nuts and bolts and the tearing away and the, that tortured existence that happens when one is being drawn towards finding out what's there and what's not, the reality of what's there and what's not. Um, at the bottom and the beginning of existence and what remains after. So I've tried to put a place of support for that. The other people that are here, it's not to say I want you to go away. That's not what it is. I'm glad everybody's here that's here. And I hope they find something that's going to serve them well and help them in their existence. But I thought it might be nice today in the new year to kind of clear up the air. What's the difference in the various journeys and things? Again, this is not to put one over another. Whatever age where you're at now is good for you now. It's what you need in this point in your journey of the many lifetimes that you will experience. Not everybody is at the same
place, but
place,
and
exactly.
If your heart's in it, eventually it will turn a corner to more of that surrender. Sometimes people are really immersed in family, young family, or whatever it is. That's not always it. So if you have that heart and care if you've got kids or not, sometimes, but whatever it is, if your heart's there and you just continue forward, things will change when they need to change at the right time, unfold, and that's how it works. So.
Exactly. So wherever you're at, to get the best that you can out of existence. If you're on that path of really everything being torn away, understand that's the journey. Everything will be torn away if you are in the heart of the monk or heart of the, the saint's heart or the monk's heart, however you want to say it. It's a different journey than for those that have the heart of social work and doing that. That's a different type of a journey. So just figure out what type of a journey. If you are there and you want family, great. Be the best mother and dad you can be. Give the best you can to your children.
That's a great thing.
It's a good thing. It's a valid thing. It's perfect. Spend that time. Do that loving journey and be there, as much as you can, a loving presence to yourself and others and your family, etc. But if your journey is that of the monk or the saint, understand everything's going to be torn away and you will face the death before death, and that is part of it. Eventually everything from the world comes back into view and one moves forward and moves into another new dynamic. It's, yes, that journey is very, very painful for a time. It can be painful for a number of lifetimes as one is in that search. But it will eventually evolve, and one will go forward and go back into the world, into a new happening.
Always
That's all
good
I
to
can say.
hear. Always good to hear you say that. It's always like hearing you say that. I don't care how many times you say it. Been many times I've heard it. Never get tired of hearing it.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing. It can be, but like I said, even when you're going, you spend so many years in the spiritualized search. There's been so many years in the spiritualized search as monks, and we spend a lot of lifetimes in those settings, and there's remembrance of those settings. There's remembrance of those lifetimes. And then one feels that everything has to be spiritualized, and it's so when that comes to its completion, can be rather a shock.
Kind of startling.
It's startling, just like in a
I
weird
don't want to put
way.
it that, maybe that's not the word, but in a way almost
Maybe
that
in the way
strong.
when people are looking at it from the outside, it's not understood. It's, but yeah, things go through a metamorphosis, and can be rather shocking when one is going through it, when it makes that drastic change, when that next door opens. It's one is
Because
can
you're
be quite
so,
surprised.
because that's so much what, like you say, that energy is there, and it's kind of just what almost it feels like the norm. It feels like who and what you are in a weird
Exactly.
way.
Exactly.
What is there beyond? Maybe that's part of where I'm stuck too. It was just kind of like, I don't know. Just now that you say that, that's came up. I know exactly what that is. Although that just falls away when there's that absolute none of that is there. None of it, zero. But that motion is in play.
Yeah.
That seeking energy that's been there for so long.
Yeah. Yeah, when one finally reaches the end, it's rather a very big shock. When one goes through that death experience, is a very big shock. When one comes out of that, and there's that time of just absolute, and one remains always in a way in that celibacy of mind and form, etc., and it's absolute in nature, that goes forward. And then when one eventually comes out of that, and that there is still, on the one hand, that celibacy of spirit, of things remaining always as that one. But then at that point, there is that life experience that comes back in. And it's again, it's another huge shock along the way, that something else.
Just like a corner gets turned and boom, something else opens up.
Right.
Boom. There it is.
Other things open up.
Can't get away from it.
And exactly. And it's just, again, another part of that journey. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's interesting.
That's all we can say.
It is
It's
interesting.
not boring. It's mysterious. It's got a mystery, and it's interesting at the same time too.
Exactly.
And you just enjoy it for what it is.
You enjoy it for what it is. But all this symbology and all these things that one surrounds themselves with for lifetimes, all of a sudden just.
You're right, because what is it? How would there be something separate that is to be honored or anything? It's just here now.
Exactly.
Like
So the other symbology of all the spiritual things, gods, goddesses, etc., all of that just dissipates as well. The whole thing just dissipates. It's it's nothing. It goes up. Yeah, it goes up, and it just.
The flame is just remains for life, pure life.
Of pure life. That's it.
The journey.
The journey.
What a journey.
It's been an interesting. I think I've lived about 10 lifetimes in this time.
Yeah, man, it just comes full force, and it just it doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop.
I agree there. I can just say at this point, I've had enough of it. I've had enough of just all comes to like a head.
It does. It comes to a head, and a lot of stuff blows out. A lot of stuff, a lot of shifts that take place and blows out, and and it's been very interesting, now that and look back, and you can see lifetimes, millions of lifetimes back, millions of years. You can cognize things as well, and it's just it's very interesting. It gets very interesting when you run into somebody that you've had lots and lots and lots and lots of lifetimes with, and you have remembrances of all those lifetimes, and it's immediate like that, and you go back and can talk about very odd experience of lifetimes. Yeah. So again, somebody, it's like that point, like twin, what they call twin flame or whatever, that you've been with so many lifetimes with, and that there's that, it's such an odd feeling of turning a corner and running into that and being able to sit and talk about that, of lifetimes that were millions of years ago. I mean, millions where you weren't even in a human form, and you were in a different type of a form, and having remembrances and being able to look at those experiences, and from that coming up to through. So again,
Wow.
yeah.
All I can say is
Yes,
wow.
yes. It's just, yeah. It's a bit wow, but it's very interesting, and it's a whole different thing to look at and cognize that, and see how things play out through the centuries and lifetimes of existence. Yeah, very interesting stuff.
Kind of moving here. See, yeah, interesting.
And you think the energies that way are
Sorry, will these Kriyas ever end? They haven't yet, as you can see.
No, they play out for a while. Eventually they do, and I can tell you they do.
See, that I
And,
can't imagine. Just
they
can't
do. It took a
imagine being
while.
without the body movement.
It took a while. Well, even, I mean, that type of thing still goes on here. That some of the energy, when it goes this way and goes this way, and yeah, that still happens. But all of the other Kriyas and things blow out.
Okay, the more external, more the,
Yeah.
all those is more
The last blowing out was, it was almost throwing me around the room.
Well, see, that's
when
I get all
when
that
the
stuff
last
still.
when the last of it happened.
The
It
Kriya,
was like
Queen, I think.
Well, no, it will come a day.
Yeah, 30 years of this. They want to get in the Kriyas at least.
Yeah, no, eventually you will have one day that it'll blow out. But for me, the last blowing out was almost literally being thrown around the room. They were so strong one night, and then that was the release of it, and that was the end of
It's
it.
good to hear too. See, I can't never hear that enough either.
Yeah,
so you
that
can keep
one,
saying that.
yeah,
I never get bored with
that
it.
will happen, but it was after realization that it took place. It was still about within, what was it, about maybe 2-3 years after realization that final blowing out of that took place.
That's good.
But yes, that
Energies do end, okay.
yes. So, but that will take place. It will eventually blow out. So
I guess everything has its time.
it all has its time. We have our lifetimes in our time, and again, it's things just keep progressing forward. That's all. Unending.
Well, that's the
Life
good
is
thing.
life
There's
is
no end to it.
unending. There's
it's a
no end.
deathless. That's the good part. I mean, if there was an end, okay, it stops here. I mean, what is that about?
There is no stop, and that's what one recognizes. Although there's that eternal presence that's unchanging, that's the center, and like the linga, that's that unchanging thing, and then you goes out through the yoni, and all the experiences happen. So they're always connected. They're always one. That's all. That's all.
That's all simple.
Simple.
It takes a million years to get here, but it's very simple.
Yeah, it takes a few million years to get here, but eventually, one gets it, and it's like, oh, duh.
So basic. It's like basic.
It's
Once
like
it
basic.
comes,
Yeah,
like
this is
the most elemental basic.
That's it. We've just graduated kindergarten.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's exactly it. All the rest, if you say you're way up in, PhD, you're way far away.
People think it's a big PhD. No,
Right.
we've just
you come back down.
we just graduated kindergarten at this point. So
it's basic. It's the basic 1 + 1. Not even
this
that.
is the
Zero.
basics. Yeah, we've just graduated. It took how many millions of lifetimes to just basically graduate through kindergarten. This is good.
And you don't even get a graduation cap with that.
No.
If you got that, you've gone too far. You don't get any of that.
You get bupkis.
Get a life.
You get bupkis. You get a life. Yeah, that's it.
Get a life. You get no suffering, I tell you, that'd be the best thing.
That's the good thing. You know, there's that suffering and the idea of suffering and all the drama that we go through. That part and the construct we've, you know, put around as this separation, that ends. Thank
Something
God.
to reach or goal, all that. But
Thank
that's
God that ends.
nothing better. Nothing better.
Thank God that ends. And then we go forward and we can go into new existence and new things, which are definitely much better. So everybody out there, have a great 2014. May you find what you're looking for. Maybe this be the best year of your existence ever.
Yay! Happy New Year!
Happy New Year's, everybody. Bye.
Namaste.
Namaste from Kindergarten Central.
Yeah, kindergarten.
Kindergarten, yeah, we've just graduated kindergarten.
And aren't you proud of us?
Yeah, it's kind of a sobering thought, huh?
This is
we just
elementary, really.
This is elementary. What is God and what is, you know, the life force 101.
Yeah, if you just stick with that one thing your whole life, or just one thing, and then eventually it blows out, rather than all this.
That's
I gotta learn, I gotta know, I gotta gather, I gotta collect.
Exactly.
You just really have done yourself a great service.
If we can just get to that point, that's, you know, so yeah, so great. I've graduated kindergarten at this point. This is fabulous.
Congratulations. Really. That's true. It's the way it is.
That's the way it is, yeah. And then you know you've just graduated kindergarten. It's like, yeah, it takes a few years for you to get, you know, this big awe-inspiring thing that everybody, you know, that wants to get in this planet is basically kindergarten.
Right.
Oh, good.
Almost pre-kindergarten.
Yes, yeah, well.
But true, it's just the basic
It's the basics. It's the basics of life, coming to know what that life force is, what God is and what God isn't. And that's was the whole search of this life for this being was, what is God? What is God and what is God not? That was the driving force. What is God? What is God? Is there a God? Is there not a God? What is it? What is it not? Etc. And what you find out is rather amazing.
It's not so.
But it's kindergarten. That's it. It's kindergarten.
So from kindergarten.
It's only up from here.
Yeah, it's only up. Then you go into life, and then you go, forward from there. But anyway, okay. Anyway, namaste from kindergarten.
Namaste from kindergarten class, yes. I see, you know.
Big O.
Romper, bumper, stomper, boo. Tell me who.
Romper room.
Yes.
We're going to go bounce balls now.
We're going to go bounce balls now. Or maybe we'll get the mats out and take a nap.
Actually, I love teeter-totters. I love that right now. That's fun. Teeter-totters are great, too. Okay, anyway.
Namaste.